Here are today's top stories. Malacanang forms a task force that will oversee efforts towards the shift to federalism. Oil companies roll back fuel prices by as low as 1 peso and 10 centavos. Malacanang says the 25 peso wage increase in Metro Manila is still subject to change, depending on economic conditions. And Miss Vietnam wins the coveted Miss Earth 2018 title.
Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Morato.
And I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The government continues its efforts to promote and implement federalism.
And an interagency body is created to oversee moves towards a shift to a new form of government. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
Memorandum Circular 52 was released today, mandating the creation of the Interagency Task Force on Federalism and Constitutional Reform. The circular was signed by Executive Secretary Salvador Medildea on October 31. The task force is chaired by the Interior and Local Government Secretary, with the Justice Secretary as Vice Chairperson. The task force is mandated to integrate, harmonize, and coordinate ongoing efforts toward federalism and constitutional reform. Among its functions are the public awareness and information dissemination and consultations with the former members of the CONCOM, government agencies, the private sector, and the general public. The body is also tasked to meet with Congress to address the roadblocks to constitutional reform. The palace also ordered the government agencies, including state corporations, universities, and colleges, to coordinate with the IATF before conducting any activity involving federalism and constitutional reform. The president has been pushing for a shift to federalism as a means to address national economic and power imbalances. President Duterte said he would quit his post as early as next year once the proposed federal charter is ratified by the public. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Malacanang confirms the appointment of Davao City Representative Carlo Nograles as new cabinet secretary. President Rodrigo Duterte chose Nograles to replace Leoncio Jun Evasco as early as 2 weeks ago. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says Nograles enjoys the trust and confidence of the president. Evasco had resigned to run for governor of Bohol province in the 2019 midterm polls. Meanwhile, Panelo says he has not received confirmation on Senator Gregorio Honasan's appointment as Secretary of the Department of Information and Communication and Technology. He says the president might name his new appointees during the next cabinet meeting.
Still subject to change. That's Malacanang's comment on the 25 peso increase in minimum wage of private workers in Manila. While it sees the wage hike enough as of now, the palace says it may change depending on economic conditions.
The Labor Department announced today a 25 peso increase in the basic pay of workers in the National Capital Region. The wage hike includes a 10 peso cost of living allowance. This raises the daily pay in Metro Manila to 537 pesos. Malacanang welcomes the wage hike but stresses the increase is still subject to change. Presidential spokesman Salvador Panelo says the wage board had determined that the increase is enough to help workers in Metro Manila based on the current economic situation. The palace earlier said it will consider the interests of both the labor sector and employees. Labor groups were lobbying for a 335 peso increase, but employers complained that a huge wage hike will scare investors and hurt businesses. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
More good news for motorists today. Oil companies announced a rollback in prices of fuel products. Gasoline prices went down by 1 peso to 1 peso and 10 centavos per liter. Diesel prices were rolled back by 90 centavos to 1 peso per liter, while the price of kerosene went down by 65 centavos. Industry sources are looking at weaker global demand as the trade war and stronger dollar affected most currencies of emerging markets.
The Philippine Consulate in Guam distributed relief assistance to Filipinos in Saipan affected by Typhoon U2, known here as Rosita. There are 15,000 members of the Filipino community in Saipan, including those whose homes were damaged or destroyed. In addition to Filipinos in Saipan, the government will also be assisting our kababayans in Northern Marianas, The island was adversely affected when Typhoon Yutu swept through the islands early in the week. The consulate will also send teams to the islands of Tinian and Rota. Consul General Marciano de Borja extended the agency's appreciation to authorities in Saipan for its assistance to affected Filipinos. He also acknowledged the financial assistance extended by hotel owner Jerry Tan.
The PNP counts over 2 million visitors in cemeteries all over Metro Manila. And 3 Filipinos are honored for bridging ties between the Philippines and Japan. More on these and other news around the Metro from Rom Dulfo.
Security in cemeteries all over Metro Manila remain tight as the National Capital Region Police Office or NCRPO reports over 2 million visitors in October 31, November 1, and November 2. Quezon City posted the most number of visitors at about 625,000. Police remained on heightened alert even as fewer people visited cemeteries over the weekend. Meanwhile, 3 Filipinos made their mark in bridging Japan-Philippines relations. The Japanese government announces it will confer decoration to Feliciano Torres, chairman of Yazaki Torres Corporation, retired Judge Antonina Oshita Escovilla, and a former staff member of the Embassy of Japan in the Philippines, Manolito Salapare. In other news, over 8,000 candidates are taking the 2018 bar examination at the University of Santo Tomas on all Sundays of November. Presidential spokesman Salvador Panelo hailed bar exam takers for their hard work in law school and their preparations to become lawyers. Panelo urged them to uphold the integrity and dignity of the law profession. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Still to come, fish production is expected to improve after the 3-month fishing ban in the Visayan Sea. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Hindi lang ako MMDA, PNP, PIDEA, local government yung nagtutulungan, maging ang mga agencies na may kinalaman sa komunikasyon ay nandito ho at nagsiselebrate kasama yung mga kababayan natin for Magdas 28.
Sabi ko sa buong team ng PCO na since tayo ay batang media at ito yung nakagisa na natin, na kailangan meron din tayo sa kauna-unang pagkakataon lahat ng government media magpunta dito para magbigay din ng serbisyo, para makisama sa mga kapatid natin sa media industry sa pagbibigay pugay sa ating mga kababayan. Kung ikaw ang reporter na assign dito, alamin mo na yung buong history nito. Kasi matadala mo na yan sa mga susunod na taon. Kung tatagal ka sa trabahong ito, ay may tuturo mo rin sa mga bagong reporter. Good luck ha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our Russian news agency is expanding its services to Southeast Asia, particularly in the Philippines, where there is a potentially wide English-speaking audience. More on this from Miguel Hill.
Moscow-based international news agency, the Sputnik News Agency and Radio, is expanding its newswire and radio services to Southeast Asia. Sputnik head of international projects, Vasily Pushkov, says this comes given the growing demand for the agency's alternative news content from a global audience. He says the Philippines is one of the options since English is widely spoken in the country. The Sputnik brand was launched on November 10, 2014 by the Russian media group Rossiya Segodnya. The news agency also offers round-the-clock newswire services in English, Spanish, Arabic, and Chinese. Last year, Sputnik signed a cooperation agreement with the Indonesian broadcasting company Radio Republik Indonesia and the internet portal of regional publication Jawa Pos. It also signed a memorandum of understanding with the Malaysian National News Agency. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
Members of the media in Mindanao mark November 2nd as International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. Media workers gathered in Kidapawan City for a candle lighting event, which is simultaneously held in Tacurong, Zamboanga, Davao, Tagum, Osamis, and Cagayan de Oro. The Mindanao Independent Press Council says it joins its colleagues from all around the world in calling in a crusade to stop crimes against journalists. The group urged journalists and media organizations not to forget the Maguindanao massacre, where 32 journalists and media workers perished. It also called on the media to fight the propagation of fake news.
The government expects better fish production after the 3-month fishing ban in the Visayan Sea, and Negrenses commemorate the Negros Revolution. More on these stories from the provinces from Miguel Hill.
The 3-month fishing ban in the Visayan Sea starting November 15 is expected to boost production by 20%. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources says the closed fishing season will allow the yearly spawning of sardines, herrings, and mackerels. In Western Visayas, the annual fish production is almost 400,000 metric tons. In Bataan, 3 persons drowned in beaches along 3 coastal villages in Bagak during the All Saints' Day break. The victims are identified as Jason Manlangit, Matthew Plaza, and Michael Palalimpa. In Bacolod City, the provincial government honored Negrense centenarians as well as this year's outstanding awardees. Negros Occidental celebrates its 120th year of the 5 de Noviembre, the commemoration of the Negros Revolution against the Spanish colonizers. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
2 earthquakes rocked Iloilo City this morning. Iloilo experienced an intensity 3 quake brought by a magnitude 4.7 earthquake that jolted Antique Province. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology says the epicenter was located east of San Jose, Antique. A magnitude 4 earthquake also jolted Sibunag town in Guimaras about a minute later, and the quake was felt at intensity 4 in Iloilo City. The successive quakes did not leave any damage. Meanwhile, a magnitude 6 quake rocked Pagadian City in Zamboanga del Sur yesterday afternoon. No damage was reported, but PHIVOLCS warned that there will be aftershocks.
Up next, Miss Vietnam wins the coveted Miss Earth 2018 title. Chris Chu plans to discuss his upcoming retirement with rain or shine. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Efficient infrastructure is necessary to ensure sustainability of urban and rural communities. The Philippine government, with its Build, Build, Build program, aims to sustain inclusive progress towards the goal of uplifting the lives of Filipinos. In its thrust to preserve the national road network that will facilitate better mobility of goods and people, the Department of Public Works and Highways successfully implemented the Road Improvement and Institutional Development Project of Dumaguete North Road in Negros Oriental, Central Visayas region. With the strong support of Secretary Mark A. Villar and Undersecretary Emil K. Sadain, the Unified Project Management Office, Roads Management Cluster 2, headed by Project Director Sharif Mads Muhasim, implements the rehabilitation of Manhuyod to La Libertad Road Section and the Libertad to Valle Hermoso Road Section, funded by a loan from Asian Development Bank and OPEC Fund for International Development. The 55.53-kilometer Manhuyod to La Libertad section, traversing the towns of Bindoy, Ayungon, Tayasan, and Himalalud, is undergoing rehabilitation, improvement of road shoulder, and slope protection works to provide safe and efficient travel at Dumaguete North Road that connects Negros Oriental and Negros Occidental. Meanwhile, reblocking and rehabilitation along the coastal road of La Libertad to Valle Hermoso Road section with total length of 41.51 kilometers with exceptions is being undertaken by a DPWH partner contractor. With target completion by 2019, the project road is expected to promote inter-provincial trade and attract both tourists and investors in the resource-abundant island of Negros Oriental.
The title for Miss Earth Beauty Pageant goes to Nguyen Pong Can of Vietnam. Can beats 86 other contestants on Saturday night. She was crowned by Miss Earth 2017 Karen Ibasco. Her elemental court is composed of Miss Earth Air 2018 Melanie Mader from Austria, Miss Earth Water 2018 Valeria Ayos from Colombia, and Miss Earth Fire 2018 Melissa Flores from Mexico. Can won over the judges when she answered in the question and answer portion. She said ignorance is the most pressing issue for millennials. Meanwhile, Miss Philippine Celeste Cortesi ended up at the top 8 after faltering at the question and answer round with malnutrition.
Indonesian authorities identified 14 bodies from the Lion Air flight that crashed at the West Java province last week. The Disaster Victim Identification Unit managed to identify 7 passengers of the crashed plane on Sunday. 7 others were previously identified by police in eastern Jakarta. Some of the identified victims are from Pangkalpinang, the destination city of the ill-fated flight. Others came from Jakarta and several provinces in Java and Sumatra. Lion Air flight JT610 was en route to Pangkalpinang when it crashed in the waters of Karawang, West Java. Airline officials pointed to technical issues as a possible cause, but the plane's black box has yet to be found. All 189 passengers are reported dead.
Fans of Chris Chiu may soon miss the basketball star as Chiu expressed his intention to retire. Chiu says he is contemplating on retiring from the Elasto Painters after 6 seasons. His contract is set to expire at the end of the year. If he signs another contract, he says it may not be a long-term deal as he is occupied with his personal commitments. Chiu dropped a career-high 30 points to lead Rain or Shine to a 107-101 win over NLEX in what could be his last game for this season.
The Cultural Center of the Philippines selected the final list of awardees for the 2018 13 Artist Awards.
And one of the awardees is Dr. Carayo. His artwork exhibit is a 13-foot human figure and 1,000 miniatures. More on this from Miguel Hill.
The 13 Artists Award is a prestigious recognition from the Cultural Center of the Philippines given to contemporary artists. Among the winners is a peculiar man known as Dr. Carayong. Of all the 13 awardees, he was the only one whose real name was not on the roster and the youngest at 27 years old. Dr. Carayong is a moniker he started using as a fine arts student in the Technological University of the Philippines. He says he chose his nickname Doctor because of his fascination with the human anatomy, and Karayom because of his determination to achieve his goals even by passing through the eye of a needle. The young artist devotes his time to personal art and one-man exhibits. At one point, he became particularly interested and devoted to sculpture. His 13th Artist Award exhibit was a 13-foot human figure and 1,000 miniatures titled Isla Inip. It's an interactive installation that allows viewers to play with the tiny figurines much like a board game. The exhibit of the 2018 13th Artist Awardees runs at the CCP until December 23, 2018. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories.
Malacanang forms a task force that will oversee efforts towards the shift to federalism. Oil companies roll back fuel prices by as low as 1 peso and 10 centavos. Malacanang says the 25 peso wage increase in Metro Manila is still subject to change, depending on economic conditions. And Miss Vietnam wins the coveted Miss Earth 2018 title.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter.
For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites.
And it's finally 49 days more to go, and it's already Christmas, Pia. It goes by so fast. I remember this time last year. So how was your long weekend?
Months.
Yes,
Yeah, my weekend was good. As you know, we don't really get to rest. I have a show also at Radio Filipinas, and that's every Saturday. So weekends are still work days for me.
Yes, but at least we're kept in the loop on all current events, of course, and that's what we want to bring to everybody. Right?
All right.
Okay, and that's your daily dose of the latest news
And information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Murato.
And I'm William Theo. Good day.